Things can escalate.
An ordinary shift for a police officer.
It started out as nothing.
It was innocuous. It was a little crime.
Can quickly take an extraordinary turn.
A simple traffic stop went stratospheric within 2 minutes.
Speed is 70 miles an hour.
He's outside the petrol station fighting with another male.
A routine case.
You can start off with something and it can turn into something completely different.
Taser! Taser! I'll hear from you!
Can suddenly spiral into a serious incident.
Then it switched. He locked the door. She knew that something was very, very wrong here.
Stand by, I think we're going to have a decamp. One got out with a baseball bat. There's a ton of cannabis in the car.
They were literally on a rampage.
Sometimes the most minor crimes.
I was looking for a stolen quad bike, found a lot more.
Can crack major cases.
We were now possibly looking at a serial killer.
Today on Big Little Crimes, a report of one missing person turns into a huge investigation on an international scale.
She'd been trafficked by a gang from the Czech Republic through Europe and into the UK.
A suspected poaching incident in rural Wales quickly develops into something much bigger than anyone could have imagined.
We started off from a blank canvas, and you end up with these international drug traffickers coming to widest part of us that you could find.
But first, a routine traffic stop suddenly spirals.
So I'm then having three-way communications whilst driving at 90 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour limit behind a car that's forcing its way through traffic. A lot of jobs start with something very small, but end with a big bang.
And seasoned traffic officer Ben Pearson is about to experience that firsthand.
It's a job that stemmed from nothing and went stratospheric within 2 minutes.
It's 7 a.m. and Ben's starting a 10-hour shift policing the roads of Bradford in West Yorkshire.
The day started like any other day on patrol. We load his vehicles up and we get in his car and we go to the areas that we know best.
And almost immediately, Ben spots something untoward.
My attention was drawn to this BMW Cabriolet, which was parked up. I looked at the car, I looked at the number plate, and I looked at the driver. A young lad, a very young lad wearing a tracksuit, just didn't add up.
This is an expensive car, and the driver's scruffy appearance just doesn't sit right with Ben.
The older you get, the more experience you get, and that we call it a bit of a sixth sense or an officer's nose. You've got a radar thing inside you that just detects the bad element of society.
Ben quickly spins his car round. It's probably something and nothing, but he wants to speak to the two men in the car to make sure.
I thought it was someone driving someone else's car and they've just got no insurance. And I just thought it'd be over in 15 minutes tops and we'd go about his way and just have a normal day. And it just didn't turn out like that. I attempted to pull alongside the driver, and it's at that point he's put his foot down and accelerated off, and we've engaged in a dangerous pursuit around the Bradford area.
What Ben thought was going to be a routine chat has quickly escalated. The man is now driving at speeds of 90 miles an hour in a busy residential area. What has he got to hide?
As soon as the car made off, instantly I just thought, oh no. When we engage in a pursuit, the switch goes. Instantly, as soon as the car puts its foot down, your adrenaline goes up. All pursuit's dangerous, and you're getting behind this vehicle, knowing it's making off at high speed, and it can end in a bad way, or someone getting injured or killed. My brain is spinning at 110 miles an hour, and I've got a lot of balls to juggle at that moment in time. Your driving's got to be second to none. You can't lose control of your vehicles. You've got to think about your radio commentary and getting all the other units into the area, but not only that, I'm, as a driver, I was classed as ground commander, so I'm in charge of the whole situation. So I've got to remain composed and focused at whatever I'm doing, and then the person that's outside of me is trying to relay what I'm saying through the radio. So I'm then having three-way communications whilst driving at 90 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour limit behind a car that's forcing its way through traffic and not injuring members of the public.
It's clear this isn't a simple case of not having insurance. The driver is risking his own life as well as those of innocent members of the public to try to get away from the police.
Something's happening here. There's a more serious offence underlying.
The scale of the crime is getting bigger by the second.
And we've got other units coming into the area. We've got MPAS, which is on its way, which is a police force helicopter.
And because it's a soft-top car with the roof wide open, the pursuit is made even more challenging.
It was going out of junctions without looking, causing other people to stop. It was swerving in and out of cars. It was causing other people to brake through red traffic lights, over speed bumps at 80 miles an hour, which were throwing him and his passenger out of the car. They went over Cresta Hill. They both came out of the car, and the passenger came out and he went straight up, and he put his arms out and he caught the front windscreen of the car. If he hadn't done that, he'd have hit the floor at 80. He'd have been killed instantly.
Ben's concerned that it's becoming too dangerous to continue. But before he can make the call, the high-speed chase comes to an abrupt end.
And the suspect lost control after going across a junction at high speed. He's then hit a parked car, bounced off that and into a garden wall.
But it's still not over. The men have got out of the crashed car and they're running.
We've then engaged in a foot chase with them. It lasted 2 gardens before he was tackled to the floor.
Ben's finally got his men. They're taken back to the station. The passenger is released without charge, but it's a different story for the driver. Why was he so keen to get away?
When he was brought into custody, we found out that the suspect was on bail for various offences, which basically means if he's got an outstanding sentence, he can be recalled back to prison to finish that sentence.
The team quickly discover the driver had recently been let out of prison after committing a burglary.
This gentleman that we're dealing with is a career criminal. He's a professional at what he does.
What started out as something as simple as a dodgy-looking number plate has turned into something much bigger. Ben takes a closer look at the BMW the suspect was driving.
Every vehicle that's on the public road has got a VIN number, which is a vehicle index number. When we've run the vehicle index number through, it's come back as being a stolen car from a burglary. So the gentleman now who's in custody has to answer questions for that burglary as well. So we've got 3 strikes from 1 traffic stop. Big little crime.
And the little crime is starting to get even bigger. The team organise a search of the suspect's home.
On searching the premises, found a double-barrelled, wooden-handled shotgun. I'm not an expert on firearms, but all I can tell you is it's a lethal weapon in the wrong hands. So the list of offences is growing. It's growing on a minute-by-minute basis.
The man is in possession of a lethal firearm without a licence. And that's not all.
On later investigation, it was found that this is a shotgun that was stolen from a burglary a few weeks previous, where several firearms had been taken from the local area. It could have been used for violent crime and armed robberies. So knowing that we've got that off the streets just through a simple traffic stop, that's why we do it.
There isn't enough evidence to connect the man with the burglary, but Ben and the team can charge him with a host of other offences.
He was charged with dangerous driving, possession of stolen goods, and possession of a shotgun without holding the valid certificate.
He's sentenced to 30 months in prison, and it's another job well done for Ben.
You're out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, saving people's lives, so you don't want anything from it. You don't ask for thanks, you just do it because you love doing it.
In our second case today, could an investigation into a missing woman be about to uncover a major crime on a global scale? It's an ordinary Monday morning, and the police have received a very common call.
There was a missing person report that came via Interpol from the Czech Republic. A concerned mother had called the police in Czech Republic to say that she hadn't seen her daughter for a long time. She said to the police that she believed her daughter had gone to the United Kingdom, but since then she'd not heard anything from her.
Missing person cases are sadly all too common, with someone reported missing in the UK every 90 seconds. Detective Sergeant Neil Lancaster has no idea that this missing person report is about to turn into the biggest case of his career.
Shortly after the girl was reported missing, the female went into the police station at Gloucester and said that she'd been held against her will and subject to a serious assault.
It's the same girl who'd previously been reported missing.
She gave them the story of how she came to the UK. And it turned out she'd been trafficked by a gang from the Czech Republic through Europe and into the UK.
The girl has been forced to work as a prostitute at a brothel, and she says she wasn't the only one.
The Met handed this case over to the Trafficking and Prostitution Unit, and they began to investigate. Now, they began to discover a pattern. They started to see that other girls had been brought over to the UK.
What has started as a report of one missing girl has turned into a potentially huge case of people trafficking. The police stake out the brothels and rescue the girls who've been trafficked. Now they urgently need to figure out who this gang are and how they're bringing these young girls into the UK.
Now, they did this by phone traffic work, by looking at the names that were given by this victim. They looked at their bank details, the fact that they bought tickets for other girls. They started putting this together. A picture soon emerged that this had been an industrial-level trafficking gang that were bringing girls to the UK for onwards exploitation.
The scale of the crime is building. Around 40 girls have been promised better lives, and instead, they've been forced into prostitution. And that's not all. When they're interviewed, they say they've also been forced into sham marriages. While the Met continue to build a case against the traffickers across town at the Home Office, officials are looking at another sham marriage case. The suspect, Nazakat Ali, a solicitor they think could be setting up the marriages. Could the two investigations somehow be linked?
We found that over a shortish period of time, his firm had processed over 1,000 applications for foreign nationals to marry either people from Great Britain or people from the European Union. What was really interesting is that the vast majority were from the European Union.
The sheer number of marriage applications is suspicious. But the fact that many involve EU nationals marrying men from South Asia catches Neil's attention.
Didn't smell right, didn't feel right.
Neil suspects the solicitor has been setting up sham marriages to help keep his clients in the country illegally.
So what you'd have is you would have one of Ali's clients would come in, say he wants to stay in the UK, say his student visa had expired, he was looking, generally it was last chance saloon, they were desperate, they wanted to stay in the UK. An easy option was to get married. Get married to a European citizen. That will then grant you the right to apply to remain in the EU.
Neil believes Ali has been using his expert legal knowledge to abuse the immigration system. The scam could be earning him hundreds of thousands of pounds.
The first thing is you'd have to fill out one of these. COA, Certificate of Approval. You'd have to make an application for one of these. There was a fee involved. And once it came back, you got a certificate, which allowed you to get married and get one of these. What you really wanted, a marriage certificate, a European bride. And what that then allowed you to do was apply for settled status in the European Union. Ali would make a lot of money out of this.
Neil's got a theory. but he doesn't have any proof. He sets about building a case, but then something happens that changes everything.
We get a phone call from a TV production company. They have sent in an undercover journalist into the solicitor's firm, and they say they have compromising material about Nazakat Ali from Ali Sinclair Solicitors, and they intend broadcasting it in 2 days' time.
Neil doesn't have enough evidence to arrest Ali, so all he can do is watch the program go out.
It was shocking. It was hugely compromising, enormously compromising. It shows an undercover journalist posing as the uncle to a young Indian immigrant going in and saying his visa is about to expire, what can you do?
Nazakat Ali is recorded explaining that if the nephew can provide a bride to get married to, he can stay in the UK.
Now they then come back a day or two later with a bride.
The bride starts asking Ali questions.
He then gets really, really touchy. He then says in Punjabi to the undercover reporter, "Why is she talking to me like this? She shouldn't be talking. She knows too much. This could get me in trouble. This could get me closed down. Get rid of her."
The undercover reporter goes away, but he tries again, this time with a different bride.
And they come back another couple of days with someone who just sits there. Ali then says, "Great, we can go ahead with this. I guarantee success. Let's get the paperwork done. We'll apply for a certificate of approval for you to marry this person." This is evidence of a solicitor offering to facilitate a breach of immigration law. This is dynamite stuff.
The report of one missing woman has revealed a crooked solicitor who could have facilitated hundreds of scam marriages. Neil's investigation is gaining momentum. He arrests Ali. But under interview, Ali stays tight-lipped. Neil still needs more evidence to charge him. He urgently searches Nazakat Ali's home and office and seizes a number of marriage application forms along with his laptop.
Now, we downloaded the contents of it. What that gave us was a full backup of all his text messages on his laptop.
But can Neil and his team find the evidence he needs to charge Nazakat Ali? Or will they be forced to let him go?
I literally had to go through it line by line.
And later, when the investigation continues, it takes an even more sinister turn.
There had been a skinned goat's head found on her doorstep. This goat head had its mouth tied up. Now, the inference is very clear there, isn't it? Keep your mouth shut.
The last case reveals the human cost of crime. But our next one begins with a very different concern, as an investigation into suspected poachers becomes one of the biggest cases in Welsh history. After 31 years in the force, former Chief Superintendent John Daniels knows to always expect the unexpected.
Challenges are all part of the police service because you don't know what you're going to face up to when you go to work. You know, from the time I joined to the time I retired, there was something every day, really.
Even though it happened nearly 40 years ago, this next case turned out to be the most unforgettable of John's entire career. It's been a quiet start to the day, but the police have received an intriguing-sounding call.
It was the lobster fisherman who was collecting his pots, and he noticed two men in a dinghy. Now, he was more concerned about were they stealing his lobsters. And when he spoke to them, they said, "Oh, no, we're just filming seals."
And another local has spotted something else that looks a bit out of place on the remote Pembrokeshire beach.
Another fisherman saw some tarpaulins on the beach shining, covering mounds. And then he went onto the beach, and there was two men there. And he spoke to them, and he said, "Oh, we're doing some filming for an expedition that we're going to go on. We're doing some practicing here for this film that we're going to do in Greenland."
Is it the same two men who were in the dinghy? Are they filmmakers or wildlife enthusiasts? Or is something more sinister at play? The police head to the beach to take a look for themselves.
The people that fishermen had seen previously had gone, the two men. So when they pulled back the tarpaulins, they could see various pieces of marine equipment. There was ribs there, there was cans of petrol there, and it all looked very, very unusual then. Not suspicious at that stage, unusual.
Even though the strangers' claims seem far-fetched, the team still need to rule them out.
They started making inquiries to see if it was a legitimate, it could have been a filming expedition, you know, anything was possible.
But the police's inquiries reach a dead end. They start to believe that the rural surroundings may have attracted poachers, as the fishermen first thought.
And then they thought, well, let's have a look at the next beach, because they'd heard by then from a local farmer that he'd seen people on that beach as well. And he checked that out and he found some tools there. But he couldn't see anything else. It was a beach just like this, really. It was nothing untoward there at all.
It's clear something is going on, but it's hard to tell whether it's innocent or potentially criminal. A team of officers head to the second beach, but they can't find anything. And there's no sign of the suspected poachers. But no one is prepared for what happens next.
Farmer threw a stone, a pebble. I heard this hollow sound and thought, this is a bit different. So when they took away the rest of the stones, they realized that there was a marine hatch cover there, which you normally see on yachts. And when that was opened up, there it was, the underground cavern.
They've discovered a hidden chamber constructed below the beach and perfectly hidden from view. The cavern is 5.5 meters long, 4 meters wide, and high enough to stand up in. And the walls are lined with solid fiberglass.
And there it was, watertight, and that really convinced everybody that something very untoward was going to happen there.
Who has built it? And more importantly, why? The team are convinced the mysterious men must be involved. Operation Sealbait, one of the biggest cases the force has ever faced, is launched. And it all started with a simple case of suspected poaching.
My team tell me there's something really big happening here. So I thought, well, I can't wait to get down there. As challenges go, this is going to be really interesting.
John's instinct tells him a huge crime is about to happen, but he has no idea what it is or when it's being planned. He speaks to the locals for more clues.
Quite quickly, they were approached by farmers to say, listen, there's something been odd happening here for the last week or so. People have been walking the coastal path who are not walkers. They look as if they'd come out of the city, really. The way they're dressed, you know, they weren't the normal walkers.
A description of a dark-haired man carrying a satchel starts to circulate around the town. The sighting is a good lead, but it doesn't give police much to go on. But then, a breakthrough.
Farmer's wife was looking through the window and could see him walking towards her farm. So she phones the police and said, the person that you're interested in, dressed in very smart clothes and carrying a satchel, is walking towards me now.
The team raced to the farm to speak to the mystery man.
The police officer went to approach him and said he was Robin Boswell. He was down on holiday. But when they looked at his boots, they could see fiberglass on his boots. Now that was the connection then.
The fiberglass is the first physical evidence that connects the suspect to the man-made cavern on the beach. They bring Boswell straight in for interview. Later that day, their detective work pays off again. They track down the second mystery man seen in the area. He gives the police the same address as Robin Boswell, but unbelievably denies they know each other.
The two men were in the same place at the same time, living the same address in London. They didn't know each other, so that created the suspicion more and more.
He also has fiberglass on his boots. The second person police can link to the underground cavern. But both suspects deny any connection.
the investigation had taken off now from just being, can we prove or disprove whether there was anything happening on the beach which is going to be illegal or whatever. It became now a major investigation.
The team know it's not a simple case of stealing lobsters, but something much more serious. They start to think it could be linked to an incident that happened 6 months ago.
A bale of cannabis was washed ashore in Newport, and it was a bale of cannabis. It was worth then about £30,000. So that was an indication that there was illegal activity, had been going on in the area.
Could what started as some fishermen worried about poaching have inadvertently uncovered a serious drug smuggling ring?
It was highly important we connected any defendants to the equipment on the beach. So it was painstaking, old-fashioned detective work, going through all the sort of process of fingerprinting it and then taking it back into storage and then checking on where the equipment was bought.
The police discover the men have been staying at a local house and quickly organize a search.
So we got to the house. There was nobody there. But when they looked in the outhouse, they found some fiberglass and some wood. So that was another indicator that taking us back to what had been found in the cave. And when they were looking through the outhouse, they heard the noise of a car coming with 2 people in the car.
One man makes a run for it, but he doesn't get far.
He said, I'm down on holiday. He said, I've done nothing wrong. But when they opened up the haversack, they found this radio.
It's a crucial discovery. It could prove there's a team working together. The man's immediately taken in for interview and says his name is Sam Spangard. But when police take his fingerprints, another name comes up on the system.
He was a man by the name of Soren Berg Arnbach, who, when they did the checks on him through the fingerprints, he'd been in prison in Denmark for possession and trafficking of hashish oil, but escaped from prison and had been on the run since.
The officers can't believe they've got one of the most wanted drug runners in the world sitting in their local police station. This has now gone from suspected poachers to a high-profile drug smuggling investigation.
The man they called in Denmark Rubberface because he was a master of disguise and he'd escaped police. You know, the fact that they were trying to track him and they just were always one step behind him.
Catching Berg Arnbach is a huge leap forward in the investigation, but John still doesn't have enough solid evidence to connect the other 2 suspects to drug smuggling. He needs to find some, and fast. Later in the investigation, it's a tense night ahead on the cliff tops as the smugglers make contact.
The words came over, "Mother, mother, can I come in and get the dirt off my hands?"
It's time to head back to the capital. A report of a Czech girl going missing after arriving in the UK has turned into a huge investigation into international people smuggling and sham marriages. DS Neil Lancaster has arrested the man he thinks is organizing the marriages. Respected solicitor, Nazakat Ali.
We seized Ali's laptop. What that gave us was a full backup of all his text messages on his laptop.
Could it be possible that these 2 cases are linked? Neil desperately needs some concrete evidence that Ali is facilitating sham marriages. Could the seized laptop hold the key?
I had to just go through it piece by piece.
It's going to take days for Neil to get through everything, so Ali is released on bail while the team begin their painstaking task.
You've got to be incredibly dogged. You've got to be incredibly determined. You've got to be willing to put the hours in.
Neil trawled through the laptop data. Finally, a breakthrough.
there were a number of hugely compromising text messages within his phone. We identify a number of the Czech gang have been directly communicating with Nazakat Ali, and we believe supplying females to go through the sham marriages.
It's a major discovery for Neil and his team. The Czech trafficking gang who brought the missing girl to the UK and Nazakat Ali are working together. After being promised a better life, these women are being exploited time and time again.
One of the messages read, "Are you coming? I've got one boy." Another one was, "You got any girls for me?" All very, very incriminating.
A single missing persons report has not only exposed an international trade of trafficking young women, but also revealed they're being forced into sham marriages. Neil sets to work, meticulously gathering more evidence to prove the crooked solicitor and the people smugglers are partners in this despicable business deal.
We went and interviewed people that he'd dealt with. We went and tracked some of the victims down. I actually travelled to the Czech Republic to speak to 2 of the victims. And crucially, a number of them picked him out on an identity parade where we showed identification films to the victims, some in the Czech Republic, some in the UK. Ali was identified in all of them.
The crime is growing at an exponential rate. After months of investigation, Neil has built up a solid picture of how the gang and Nazakat Ali are working together.
These girls are being trafficked to the UK by all these members of the Czech gang. They're then being put into prostitution. They then send them to Ali Sinclair solicitors, where Ali will match them with a husband who needs status in the UK.
The jigsaw puzzle is finally piecing together. And there's more good news. An eyewitness has come forward.
The former practice manager of Ali Sinclair solicitors wanted to talk to us, so we went and saw her and we took a witness statement off her. And she gave really crucial background evidence about the general workings of the firm, about how these meetings used to go on behind closed doors, about after-hours meetings with people from the Czech Republic.
Having an eyewitness who saw Ali and the gang interact hugely strengthens Neil's case. And he's also got evidence that this corrupt operation was earning the criminals a fortune.
The money involved in this formed 2 parts. There would be the legitimate over-the-counter costs. It would cost about £600 to get a certificate of approval. To go on then and get EEA status, it could cost you another £1,200. However, aside of that, there would be the under-the-counter fees. These were the fees that would be paid to the traffickers for the girls, and these would be the fees that would be paid by the foreign nationals to get the forged paperwork. And it amounts to many, many thousands of pounds.
Neil is determined to put a stop to it.
This is high profile. This is significant. The amount of money involved was huge.
He's finally got enough evidence to charge Nazakat Ali with assisting unlawful immigration. It's time to face the courts. And it's an anxious 8 weeks for Neil.
It was a very difficult trial at times. Some of the evidence was coming direct from the Czech Republic via video link. We had major technical difficulties. It kept going down. In the end, the judge ruled that 2 of those cases had to go because we just couldn't get the video evidence to work. We couldn't get them over. The clock was ticking. We had to lose those 2 cases, which was really, really annoying.
Then, another dramatic twist. The morning the practice manager is to take the stand against her former employer, something shocking happens.
I got a phone call from her husband saying that there had been a skinned goat's head found on her doorstep, literally as they were about to leave to get into the car to be brought to court. This goat head had its mouth tied up. Now, the inference is very clear there, isn't it? And it's very, very sinister. Keep your mouth shut. Now, we never had any evidence to say that Nazakat Ali knew about this. It never came out in court, but it definitely happened.
Despite the scary tactic, Ali's practice manager bravely gives her evidence in court. And Neil finally hears the words he's been waiting for.
Nazgat Ali was convicted of 2 counts of assisting unlawful immigration and also an offence of encouragement or incitement to commit an offence. He was sentenced to a total of 6 years imprisonment. A financial investigation was undertaken. The end result of that meant that he had to forfeit close to £2 million in assets.
The Czech gang are given sentences ranging from 3.5 to 11 years for people trafficking. Nobody could have predicted that a missing person report would uncover a human trafficking ring on an industrial scale. Thanks to Neil's determination, he was able to get justice for the many victims.
It's really rewarding to know that I played a part in getting these girls out of these terrible, terrible situations. It's been really, really satisfying.
There's one final case to wrap up today, over on the Pembrokeshire coast. What started out as an investigation into poaching has spiraled. Police now think they've uncovered a gang of international drug smugglers. 3 suspects are in custody, including Robin Boswell and Soren Berg Arnbach, a Danish drug smuggler who escaped prison and has been on the run for the last 12 years.
This was the person that we arrested then. That's how he was there as a young man. I think he first came into this custody when he was about 18, and then he did. And you can see then the different faces of him then, where he changed his facial expression, or facial looks then. But you can see how clever he was. He was quite a, he was a different sort of guy to anybody else.
This master of disguise earned himself the name Rubberface and has been outsmarting the Danish police for a long time.
Once we knew who we were dealing with, we knew we were dealing with drug traffickers. So it was very important we find the drugs.
The radio Berg Arnbach had when he was arrested could hold the key. The police's only chance of getting the evidence they need to charge these suspects is if the person at the other end gets in touch. So John and the team hatch a plan and lie in wait for the smugglers to call.
So that night, when they took the radio up the headland, not knowing what would happen, it came to life at about midnight. And the words came over, "Mother, mother, can I come in and get the dirt off my hands?" Because that was obviously the code word that the drugs were on the way to come in. That was why there has been so much activity then in the preceding 24 hours.
The officers know that dirt is a code word for cannabis, but they don't know how to reply. Their only option is to stay quiet and hope the smugglers still make their drop.
The hope was that they would bring in the drugs and we would be in a position at least we could identify the boat and do something with it, really. But because we didn't respond, and under cover of darkness as well, it wasn't easy then.
It looks like the smugglers have been spooked by the lack of reply. They're nowhere to be seen. It's a massive blow for the investigation, but has confirmed John's suspicions that a major crime was about to take place. Without any clear evidence to charge the men, it's back to square one.
The big thing was to piece together everything about these that we could, so at least then we could connect them as not only as conspirators, but show they were jointly involved in this then, and the build-up to it all.
The team head to London, where the suspects live.
Their activities in London and where they lived around London was going to be fundamental in proving this.
They need to figure out where the suspects bought the equipment that was found on the beach in Wales. The team visits specialist shops and show the owners a photo of Boswell.
And everybody we went to see, they all identified them. Yes, that's the man who bought the dinghy. He had 17 aliases, okay? Everything he bought, he would never use his proper name then.
John's finding more pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. But he still doesn't have any proof the men are drug smugglers. Then, a breakthrough. They get a tip-off from a workman that something is hidden in the garden of Boswell's house.
When they went and dug the garden, they found a tank. And when they opened up the tank, they found the documents, which were bank statements, again in a string of aliases. But you could see that his fingerprints were literally all over them, because we knew now what his style was.
The team quickly tracked down the bank accounts.
So we went to the bank now to speak to the cashier who dealt with it. It was New Year's Eve, she said. And this man came in with 2 suitcases, and he opened them up, and there was what he was, £750,000 in them.
He shows the cashier a photo of Boswell.
She identified him straight away from the photographs that we had on the photographic lineup.
It's obvious a huge crime is being committed. But with no drugs to prove it, John needs more. Back in Wales, the team hit the jackpot. They discover the men had employed a local accomplice, and he started talking about the aborted plan, the night the police had hold of the radio.
And he said that the plan was that once the message came in from the boat, "Mother, mother, can I come and get the dirt off my hands?" they would then go out and meet the boat, where there was 30 tons of cannabis on board, worth about £3 million. Then they'd transfer it over onto this big dinghy. It was still dark and the weather was good. They would take it up to near Moyle Grove, where they would unload it into vans to take back to London. If things weren't going according to plan, that the boat was late or the weather wasn't good, they would take it to the man-made cavern, store it there, and then at the right time would take it from there to be transported back to London.
What started as a report of some potential poachers has blown up to reveal a multi-million-pound drug smuggling operation.
You know, we weren't any longer trying to prove the impossible. We knew it was going to be headed towards drugs then, even though we suspected throughout, really, but there's a big difference in knowing and proving.
John and the team now have the evidence they need to link the suspects to the equipment on the beach, the cavern, and the plan to bring £3 million worth of cannabis into rural Wales.
I think one thing I will reflect on it, you know, there's a lot of pride in it, really. We started off from really a blank canvas, and you end up with these international drug traffickers coming to a rural part of Wales, quietest part of Wales that you could find.
The gang are charged, and the case goes to court. It's a tense few weeks for John and the team.
It was like a drama unfolding every night on the news. What's going to happen next?
After a long 5 weeks, the police get the result they're after. The gang are found guilty and sentenced to a total of almost 40 years in prison.
They were so confident that nobody would know what they were doing, but their confidence let them down.
Join us again on Big Little Crimes, when everyday policing...
There was something about the behaviour of the occupants of this car that didn't sit right.
...uncovers extraordinary crimes.
This was a cold, calculated murder, and probably one of the worst murders I've dealt with.
And cracks major cases.
There was weapons absolutely everywhere. You know, I've never seen anything like it.
A rare planetary eclipse and dark skies over the island. It's a new death in paradise. More on that in just a moment. And as her new husband shows no interest in her, producing an heir won't be easy. Press red to watch Marie Antoinette.